Yes, as they say, the smartest guy with a bow tie in Chattanooga, defender of local economy and the free market, arguing that you should love your neighbor and buy local. Near is better than far, small than big, and simple than complex. Those are the three main axioms for local economy and the free market. And in the footnotes, a 5-point type in Helvetica font, the neutral font, the non-military, non-imperial font without the serifs, right? The little blades on the letters. We've got personal is better than corporate and physical than abstract. Like us on Facebook. We're live there at Nougat Radio. And also on your smartphone app, make sure you get the TuneIn Radio app. And there we are on Hot News Talk Radio. That's how you find us there. Hot News Talk Radio, brought to you by yournews.com and Meganomics.com. The number is 800-8949. You may have a question now for Carol Berz. She is a counselor. She is an advisor. And she runs for 20 years now a business, a service in Chattanooga called Private Dispute Resolution Services. She and her daughter Jenni, one of 4 children, operate this concern, and it is about saving money and saving headache among people who otherwise, if they didn't know about her, would end up hiring lawyers, going to court, settling disputes with legal fisticuffs and bats. But she says, no, I've got an alternative theme. An alternative theory. Carol Berz does. She's in her 10th year also on the city council, where yesterday she presided over a hearing on stormwater, and has a very, not say kind of a gracious way of dealing with the public. Carol, thanks for joining us here on the David Tooley Show.
I'm really glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, tell my listener, what's the main argument for mediation over litigation? What are the main points that he needs to, or he or she needs to consider about?
Well, let me tell you a little bit about mediation. Mediation is a legal process. It was engendered from the Tennessee Supreme Court as an alternative way to solve disputes. So it's guided by Supreme Court rules. However, people in a confidential setting get to sit down and work out their own issues and have control of the outcome. And yes, it usually is less expensive than court.
Well, in court, you have motions, you have requests for hearings, there's a lot more process in a courtroom, right, than mediation.
That's exactly right. Mediation is a non-evidentiary hearing. It's a process in which folks in conflict can settle their matters in a way that meets legal muster and has staying power. And again, it's based in self-determination and confidentiality.
Well, what does self-determination mean?
It means you get to decide the outcome of your matter.
Well, all right. So let's say you have 2 businesses that have an argument over a contract that's a little fuzzy or ambiguous. That one of them says, "Carol, we'd like private dispute resolution services to help us." The other side, how does it work when someone determines that they don't want to go to court with this other party with whom they have a dispute?
Well, we do a lot of that, and especially business disputes. And what happens is that they will come to our offices, and they will figure out what the salient matters are in their issue, and then they will work at. There's always a solution. Life happens, sure. People are control. What I've found is that life happens, things happen, and sometimes the legal system that's based on fault as opposed to fix gets in the way.
Well, there is a dictum, I think, from Gibson's book Suits and Chancery, that for every wrong there's a remedy. And so you're saying there is a remedy, and we're going to have the 2 sides come together and hash it out. What if it's something that is an objective thing, such as a contract? Do you or your advisors, your mediators, do you rule on the contract?
Absolutely not. I make no decision. You know what? I think we sell people short. We're all capable of working out our own matters, David. It's just a matter of having the opportunity to do it. So let me tell you, whereas traditional Western court system is based in history, positional bargaining, it's fault-based because it's already happened. Mediation is an alternative dispute resolution method whereas I can't unring the bell, so it's already happened. So what we want to do is concentrate on future and fix. And I have found that people are really talented when they're allowed to solve their own problems.
Are you saying that disputes, what you try to do is get people to look into the future and not set and not resolve a past dispute, to somehow look past a past dispute? Is that what you're suggesting?
Well, I think if you come up with a solid fix, magic happens. I think people really are uncomfortable in dispute. We don't really like dispute, but we need to save face. So this is a very stringent way of doing it. It's by far not a kumbaya process. It's a legal process that happens in the privacy of an office where people can come up with their own solutions.
So there's no stenographer?
No, totally confidential.
And how long does a meeting go? How long can a meeting go?
Well, that's really in control of the disputants. I would say that a contract case might take a couple of hours.
Well, give an example of what you're talking about.
Well, you have businesses that everybody might be acting in good faith, but there's a misunderstanding. There's not a meeting of the minds. I don't think anybody wants to go out of business. I don't know that anyone wants to sue anybody, but that's all that's offered at this point. Lawsuits aren't about money. They're about what money represents. In another society, it would be ears of corn. So I think we get very much frozen in these fault-based positions when actually we could blame each other all day. That's not accomplishing much. We need to move on. Every city is a small town. Business relationships need to keep going, and they don't need all that noise on the line of fighting.
So when you say it's fault-based, your goal in the 2-hour meeting is not to say, okay, we're assigning the blame. 80% of the blame is on Mr. Smith, and 20% of the blame is on Mrs. Jones. They're having a dispute. That's not your goal. The goal is to say, okay, we've had a seeming wrong done here. We want admissions by the guilty party. We want concessions on the other side. And what can we do to make things right in the future? You're projecting.
You're using Western terms that we don't use, like fault is fixed and blaming and all of that. Mediation says, you know what? Stuff happened and we're not happy. We could spend all this time and money dwelling on the past, or we could spend our energy dealing with the future. And what would a future relationship between us look like?
Well, can you be specific about, give my listener a sample case, Carol?
We have corporations that have employees. We do a lot of employee mediation. We have family relations.
Be specific on that. Give an example of what you're talking about.
Well, I can't. It's all confidential.
Well, I understand that, but make a composite for my listener. Just go ahead. Or dispute XYZ type company.
Let me tell you.
Here's the employee, and here's what happened.
Yeah. So let me tell you. Let me help out a little here. When I was in law school, I think it was my second year of law school, we were talking about some of the criminal cases that you mentioned earlier in your show. And you read cases in law school, et cetera. And one of my colleagues was reading a case, and in the end, she didn't like. And so she said to the professor, "That's not right." And I'll never forget what the professor said. It stuck with me. It's still with me now. And he said, you have to understand law is not moral, it's legal. And I had to think about that. I had to think about the fact that there ought to be a system where people can sit down as human beings and work things out. And thank God in the 90s, our Tennessee Supreme Court came up with what I think is one of the finest laws in the nation. Now we teach corporations, we teach families how to use mediation. And it is sanctioned by the Supreme Court. Now, you don't have to be a lawyer to be a mediator. We just finished training a number of folks that work in government, that work in industry, about how to do conflict management, peaceful conflict resolution. So the kinds of cases generically, David, are usually employee relations. They could be healthcare. They could be family. All the family law isn't about divorce. It can be about will contests. It can be about families. There are many contracts in families. And so sometimes you have family-owned businesses. that need this sort of help. What you want to do is you want to bring integrity to the system. You want people to be able to get to yes, which is what the training's based on, collaborative problem solving. My training background is the Harvard Negotiation Project and the book Getting to Yes, and working with the authors of that book. And so you don't want to spend a lot of time with no. It's counterproductive. As I said, you can't unring the bell. However, I find people are pretty good at solving their own matters.
Well, I understand what you're saying about it's not really a moral question in courts, it's law. But on the other hand, we have Chancery Court, one of the 3 states in the country that has Chancery Court, whose main jurisdiction and whose main duty is equity. And equity is a biblical concept of right for right. Lex talionis is, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, wound for wound, stripe for stripe. That the idea in biblical law is that if there's a judgment or punishment, it's equal to the wrong, not more, not less. And that's what equity is. And that jurisdiction is all about equity. So it really is moral. So in what way, maybe I'm misunderstanding you. You're saying that it's not a question of morals, but legality. There is a moral component really in every dispute, right? But you're not necessarily arguing a moral question, Carol Berz.
Well, I'm not arguing a moral question. What we're doing is saying that people can sit and discuss their matters without having to. They have an opportunity to be heard in full. Our courts do a wonderful job. Chancery Court does a wonderful job. I sometimes get referrals from those courts, and mediation has to do with court annexed processes as well. What I'm saying is, we have rules of civil procedure. We have rules of court, and the judges do a fine job. However, the Supreme Court has said, you know what? Sometimes, particularly in very sensitive matters, sometimes it's better for folks to have the opportunity to sit down in a confidential setting and work it out themselves. Both Chancery and Circuit and Criminal Court are public settings, as well they should be.
Well, your hearings, you don't have hearings, your get-togethers, your tete-a-tetes, if you will, head-to-head in French. You mentioned could be 2 hours, but some go longer. Have some gone all 8 hours on one day and then to dinner, stop, and you go the next day?
Absolutely. I can only think of one with 2 big companies fighting. And the only reason it went longer than that was because both sides didn't have all the evidence that they needed to show the others for them to make informed consent. Informed consent is very, very important in mediation.
And in that case, did the second day come immediately after the first, or was there some lag time for the documents to be assembled?
Actually, mediation in Tennessee is defined by Supreme Court Rule 31 and the ethical constraints that go with it. And Supreme Court Rule 31 says that I shall do this as expeditiously as possible and not drag it out. So, yes, it did finalize the next day.
So they got the papers after dinner. They went back to the office. Okay, we've got what we have here, and we're going to show up at Carol Berz's office. Are you in Eastgate Town Center or next to Eastgate Town Center?
Actually, I'm in Osborne Center, directly across from the Family Justice Center.
When you went to law school, Carol Berz, why did you not go into litigation? What drew you to mediation?
Well, it's more important what sent me to law school. I was a clinical social worker and was head of a mental health center, and we were doing a lot of forensic work. And so my clinical specialty is forensics. I, at that time, thought the mental health system was contributing to mental illness and not much helping people. And I wanted to know who made the laws that did that. It turned out there was people in Nashville with sometimes law degrees and maybe not enough knowledge of mental health. And so I was going to change the world for mental health. I went to law school to do that. What I found out then is that I was probably more of a social worker clinician than a lawyer. And right about that time when I worked in law offices while I was going to law school, but right about that time, mediation came around. And I thought, wow.
Is this what
in the 90s. And so I had the opportunity to work with some very fine mentors all over the country. I guess my main one was up at Cambridge, and it's what I wanted to do. It felt right.
What other nostrums did you learn from them? What great sayings that did you come away with from some of your teachers, Carol Berz?
That people have the ability to make decisions for themselves if they're allowed to. They need to be allowed to make them with dignity and full understanding, and that there is a place for law in all of this. And usually when people make decisions about their own lives or their own situations, whether it be business or otherwise, they have staying power.
Well, we have the internet, Carol Berz, that's bringing law and law helps to the common man. There's No Low Press, which publishes many books on contract, employment, marriage, prenuptial agreements. There are many different topics, how to handle your own case in civil court, how to handle your own criminal case. There's more access to this kind of material. There are paralegal businesses that don't offer legal advice, but handle forms for my listener. And in your field as well, is there growing competition for your business private dispute resolution services in Chattanooga? Are there several others doing the same line?
Gosh, I hope so. We've trained most of them. We train people all over, and I hope we've done a good job. So I hope there are. I think there's enough conflict, unfortunately, in the world that hopefully there are enough people doing a quality job for collaborative problem solving.
My listener has that idea, somewhat like yours, Carol, of helping people and being able to listen and kind of steward a conversation to as you said, to a yes. What kind of characteristics would you say he or she need to have to possibly enter into this field and maybe ask someone like you about being trained in it? What are the personal characteristics?
Well, the personal characteristics are mainly being a good listener, respecting people, respecting their rights, and this profession is sanctioned by the Supreme Court. In other words, you don't just go out and mediate because of specialization requirements or with the state. You're called Rule 31 listed mediator, but it's a credential, and you're listed with the state. So in order to be listed, you need to have at least a bachelor's degree or other like experience in some instances.
And how is the training affected for my listener if he wants to enter this field, or maybe he knows someone who's very gifted in this area but just hasn't heard about you?
Well, I think you go to our website, which is 4PDRS.
Say that again.
4PDRS, or Carol Berz at 4PDRS. Either one. And not only will we tell you about what we're doing, but we'll also link you to the law.
This is David Tillis. We're talking with Carol Berz, who is a city councilwoman, but also manages for 20 years now a private dispute business. It's called Private Dispute Resolution Services. And I want you to make sure that you attend the Saturday and Sunday, the 36th annual Chattanooga Riverfront Triathlon. That's Saturday and Sunday. We'll be broadcasting there at the Expo downtown both days. And Sam Jordan, our sports guy, will be broadcasting from a bike on the day of the race. That's Sunday. We hope to be there with our yellow Hummer, the eye-catching car that I travel around in. And we're talking with Carol Berz. So you like what you're doing, Carol, and your daughter Jenni, one of your 4 children, is in your business with you. And how many people altogether work in mediation in your business?
In the business, we have a team of professionals, independent professionals. They're all up on the website. Gosh, I'd have to count. There's 7 or 8, but we pick for each issue the best in the field. So they come and go according to their expertise. If we were going to talk about libertarianism or something like that, David, why wouldn't we call you?
Well, thank you, Carol. That's very kind of you. This is David Tillis and Carol Berz. Thanks for joining us. And give the website one more time, please.
4PDRS.
That's the numeral 4.
Yes.
4PDRS.com.
Yes.
Thanks for joining us, Carol.
Hey, it was great. Have a great day.
We are here at 92.7 New York Radio and also 95.3 FM HD4. That's high definition digital radio. It's reaching out 65 miles from Chattanooga from our powerful tower. And as they say, I'm the blogger with the biggest pen, and that would be that tower. And we're glad you're giving us just a couple minutes of your time. Brought to you by yournews.com. That's yournews.com, and also movinghours.com, the website for the man who knows, and of course, and women who know. Not very popular. And it's not very popular because we have very few people married, but you can. You know listeners can marry, and I want to encourage you to look on. And Councilwoman Berz, we have any type of dispute. Mediation is a terrific concept, and we should be for it. Very cool on the radio.
3, 2, 1.
Chattanooga Radio. Digital FM 95.3 HD4. 92.7 FM's news now.
Corrections made to the Jeff Stiles police press release. Chattanooga police omitted 2 phrases after learning they were incorrect. Stiles' attorney says the statement that he blacked out and went into red mode was made while Stiles was under the influence of morphine. Stiles was charged with aggravated assault and vandalism following a road rage incident that left him with a shot in the arm. Sheriff Steve Wilson tells the press that 2 deputies were accused by one woman of sexual assault. Those 2 deputies were reportedly off duty at the time, the accuser telling authorities that the 2 men held her against her will and attempted to have sex with her. The accuser was able to leave the apartment and call law enforcement. East Brainerd residents met to discuss the pros and cons of the proposed Hurricane Creek cell tower to be built by Verizon. That cell tower, if it's built, could be leased to many cell carriers, bringing better service down the line. Val St. John for Nooga Radio, News Talk 92.7, Action News Now.
92.7 Nooga Radio.
Keon Rose, Nooga Radio 92.7, Action Sports. Now, the Chattanooga FC women are on top of their division and one of 6 teams at the top of their league, the WPSL. Chattanooga FC improves their record to 5-0 after defeating the Peachtree City MOBA women's team 2-0. Carly Banks drew first blood, scoring the first goal with 17 minutes left in the first half, and Caitlin Hayes put the game away with a header in the second half with 32 minutes remaining. The Chattanooga FC women will go on the road and take on the Memphis Lobos June 24th. The Mocs have announced the members of their first ever fan council, a 12-member panel that provides feedback on areas like fan engagement and game day enhancements. The fan council will get to look at budgets and marketing plans to improve the quality of UTC athletics involvement with the community. Council members will serve 1 to 2 year terms. Keon Rose, Nooga Radio 92.7, Action Sports, now.
After a warm and muggy start, quickly heating up for your Wednesday. Highs 90 to 92. A few isolated afternoon showers and storms will pop up tonight. Muggy again, lows 70 to 73. A few more scattered showers and storms, though, will push in from the west Thursday and Friday, with highs staying into the 80s. For the largest and newest selection of fireworks, check out Exit 1A Fireworks, a Black Cat dealer with great prices. Pop a rocket, not your pocket, with Exit 1A Fireworks just off I-75 on Ringgold Road, East Ridge. And I'm Sorgene 12 Sheep Meteorologist Patrick Moore.
Nooga Radio 92.7.
Hey, dude, check this out. Have you ever seen one so big?
Whoa, look at the size of that.
Look at this little itty-bitty one.
Wow, that's really small.
They have them big, small, and everything in between. You'll always find the biggest variety of knives at the knife shop at Frost Cutlery in Ottawa. We're talking about over 40 brands of knives, including Benchmade, WR Case & Sons, Booker, and all the Frost Cutlery brands. Now, Sam, you've been to the cutlery shop. Is it amazing?
Spectacular. The knife shop at Frost Cutlery in Ottawa. They have knives, swords, kitchen knives, ammo, and reloading supplies, plus survival gear.
It's the knife shop at Frost Cutlery, open 7 days a week. Hey, girls, you're going to love this. We're going to the knife shop. Hey, let's not tell them they have ammo and loading supplies.